The following podcast may contain some strong language and adult themes. If you've got young children around, maybe save it until they've gone to bed. If you really don't like bad words, this pod probably isn't for you.
Welcome to the Making Up the Numbers podcast. The Making Up the Numbers podcast is sponsored by Hope Technology, J-Tech Suspension, Revolution Bike Park, Ride Southern Spain, Schwal, and the world's finest independent mountain bike magazine, Single Track. Previously on the Making Up the Numbers podcast.
I'd come through the finish and then obviously just got myself out of there because I was pissed off. And Aaron Gwynn stopped me in this little tunnel that we had to go through to get out. And I was like, I remember thinking, obviously I was annoyed, I didn't want to see anyone. And I remember thinking, why is Gwynny stopping me? And he was like, are you all right, mate? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. He was like, you were on one. And I was like, was I? Because obviously I don't know anything. I didn't even look round.
Yeah, you've just got out of there, yeah.
He went, you were green. And I was like, it made it worse. I was like, are you fucking serious? So I just went back to our little pit at the bottom of the chairlift. And I just sat there on my own. Just cried and anything. Just sat there staring into space for about 20 minutes. Processing it. But that's racing and that's why we love it, I guess.
Yeah, I remember I did the first e cross country in Montserrat the year before, so I had a bit of a clue on what was going on. And I spent the race battling with Lloyd's dad, so so I was like, yeah, okay, there's a bit of a difference in some of the motors. And actually, Lloyd's dad had a huge crash because I was like cheering him on so much from behind and he went straight over a berm.
Oh,
but Lloyd was like, yeah, you shouldn't be riding around behind my dad.
And it was hard for me to understand how all the riders evolve between semi and final, or how they manage that and how they improve their time and everything. So for me, even
I love that your response to that has just been to just win everything. I know what I'll do. I'll just win fucking all of it.
Maybe it's the easiest way, I don't know, for me, but
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of season 5. What a few weeks of racing. It's been an incredible end to the season, and I'm delighted that in this episode we're going to be joined by two of the young guns who've absolutely smashed it at the last 2 World Cups, Callaghan and Harnden. But first, I need to start off the show with an apology. On the last episode, I said that I'd heard Jess Blewett had already signed for another team, which was in fact news to Jess. So I'm very sorry about that, Jess. I hear quite a lot of rumours and I try to sort the wheat from the chaff, or at least say where I've seen it or heard it. If I'm not sure. But on this occasion, that one slipped through the net. My favourite bit about this was the message I received from Emilie, which read, she's not mad, which is a bit like your mum saying, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. Not a nice message to receive, but we're all friends now, and I'm delighted that Jess will be coming on the show once she's ready to announce, and we'll have more team rumours later, because as Jack told us on the group chat, he's got so much gossip. Is that right, Jack? You want to tease us with one?
Oh, yeah, there is loads of gossip, but I think at the moment it's too early to be dropping too many names and specific speculations, because I might end up losing a few friends if I do. But yeah, I do know there's a new Mondraker team.
Right.
And I have heard it's going to be a really, really good time, but it might be pretty intense. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good.
I think later on in the winter we can probably start, dropping some more gossip stuff. But for now, that's all I'll say.
Yeah. Emmy, before we get cracking, how's Cammy getting on?
Good. She actually had some more MRIs on other part of her body, because actually her head is feeling really good right now. All the neurological tests she did, she was didn't have any symptoms, so no headaches, no dizziness, stuff like that. but her thumb is really sore still, and she can't really hold on to the handlebars. So I think, that's what is bothering her the most, and the chest also is painful. So they're like, oh, there's bleeding in there, contusions, but they wanted to be sure. And yeah, basically she's gonna have to go see a specialist for a thumb, maybe to make like a little brace so she can like hold on to the handlebars better.
Yeah.
We're talking like normal trail riding, not like specific downhill stuff yet, but so it's not getting like too painful. But yeah, it's like bone contusion takes so long to heal. It's like 2 or 3 months maybe sometimes.
Oh.
So that's what she's doing right now. So no like proper training, but we're doing all sorts of stuff, and she's in the physio every day. So it's moving forward slowly, but surely.
Yeah. And how gutted were you to miss the final 2 World Cups?
I don't know. Of course, like I was gutted not to go because it was a good time last year for Bernard, and I want to like, I would have been very gutted if you won that one. I wasn't there, to be honest. So I was like, but we watched the race, and like, I think when she's not there, she's like not very gutted. Like she's like, oh yeah, well, I'm not there. So, and watching semifinals and finals for anyone, but like for her at the moment, especially, it's like a lot of TV to watch in one day. So yeah, of course we watched the race, and she was also gutted Benoit was missing, both of them, because that was a big motivation for her to see her teammates do well. But yeah, she's not too bad with that. She's not like crying at home, I want to be there. So that's good. I think it's a good thing.
Cool. Right, racing then. Let's start with snowshoe and a whole bunch of surprises. Jack, this was your penultimate World Cup. How much pressure were you feeling coming into snowshoe?
Honestly, I wasn't feeling much pressure going into it. I was more just excited. And then did what I did to my leg on run 3, and it became a little bit of a rescue mission, to be honest. I've always hated qualifying. So has everybody who's not protected, and everybody who's not protected for this new semi and wants to get through to, or feels they can get through to the final, hates the semi, if that makes sense. Yeah. So these two would arguably 2 of the worst of my entire career, especially Montserrat, just because I so desperately wanted to race the semi-final, which to me is still the final.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely hated it. But the problem at snowshoe was it was gradually drying up. So I finished practice, and because the juniors then do their race before we qualify, there was going to be this quite long time window before our quali. So when I was warming up, like it was apparent in my head, I was like, the pace has been lifting this morning, but now with no extra practice, we're going to have to go maybe like 3 or 4 seconds faster than I initially thought. So I just rode super stressed. I made one mistake in the top section, nearly crashed, and from there it was just literally a train wreck. It's a good job of me doing a load of training, because I never went over the bars about 4 times. It was just absolutely all over the place. It was just a war to get down the hill. Really didn't enjoy the run, like at all, and was just relieved to go through to the final. And then the following day, I really enjoyed my race run. So yeah, it's good.
Cool. So you were 54th in quali and then 42nd in finals. Interestingly, 1 place ahead of Gaetan Vige, who would go on to podium in MSA. Last year, snowshoe was so difficult. How did it compare this year? Because it looked like there was even less dirt and even more rocks.
Yeah, this year it was really tough at the start. Similar to last year, because it was super greasy, and then it went through this weird phase of like, you kind of thought it was dry, but it wasn't. So you were trying to push. You thought you had grip, and then there's so many rocks that are all at weird angles. You can do nothing wrong, essentially, and your rear wheel could be an inch left, and it'll hit something, and the bike will get spat sideways. And that's how I actually did my leg, but didn't even leave the bike. But by race day, it was good. It's quite easy to ride that track when it's dry, but in the wet, it is literally the hardest track on the circuit by a mile. Because Val di Sole is dirt, so you put full spikes on and ride the mud.
Yeah.
The snowshoe, there is no tyre in the world that will grip to that wet rock, so you're just like terrified every time you drop into it.
So what tyres do you run?
On that stuff?
Yeah. Mary's?
Well, the new Taki-chan. Yeah. But if it was super wet, I would run a mud tyre, because the mud would then be all chopped up, and you'd want the mud tyre to the mud. And then, as I say, everything's shit on them rocks. Nothing's good on them. So, you don't, on that track, personally, I don't pick a tyre for the rocks. I'll pick a tyre for what's going on in general and go that way. So I just ran Taki-chans all week, and by the end, it was spot on.
Cool. And another rider who's retiring, Dean Lucas, had a horrible crash, stretched his spinal cord, which temporarily paralysed him. I know his recovery has been slower than he hoped, but I think I speak for all of us when I say we hope you make a full recovery, Dame. The highs and lows of racing were truly evident, with the winner of the previous round in Leger, Benoit Coulange, cracking his scaphoid in practice. Healing vibes to Benoit. We all know he'll be back on the bike very, very soon. In junior women, Iris van Leuven won by nearly 6 seconds from Taylor Osgaard, with Valentina Roa Sanchez in third. Iris continued with a win or bust approach, Emmy?
Yeah. I think it's not like that she wants to do that, but she's just the way she rides. And like Jack said, this track also, like when you do a mistake, you most likely on the ground. So, but yeah, Taylor Osgaard is cool to see. And she has a little sister that is still first year under 17, and she was second at the US Open behind Nina. So she beat Nina in practice. So there's another one coming in 2 years, and that's going to do great things. So that was great to see Taylor on the podium too.
Cool. And in junior men, Milan Falke took third. Evan Metcalf put in a super smooth run for second. Have you heard Aaron's commentary on that, either of you?
I haven't.
Yeah. I've watched every junior race.
Yeah, it was so cool. He said the guy, Evan's going so fast, but he isn't pedaling anywhere. And Aaron can't work out like whether he should be trying harder or whether he's doing, just doing great, but he needs to go down the gym.
But it's true. He has a special style. Like even in other races, I was like, what is this guy doing? But then he's just like, the timing tells you another story. So it's pretty funny to watch him ride, and pretty like the junior category this year has been really good to watch, I feel like. And also like watching the live was pretty interesting to see. Yeah.
And Evan I'd never heard of him, but when I spoke to Ryan up in Fort William, he'd said, watch out for my buddy Evan. He's going to come good. And he was right. He's had a great end to the season. Ryan took the win. He's fourth on the bounce and with it the overall. I was going to ask any word on where Ryan might be heading next season, but I think you've already might have revealed that, Jack. Is that right?
I couldn't possibly say.
In semis, Valley crashed and still won, but Marine and Tarney weren't far behind her. Dak crashed and got fifth, Ronan fourth, Loris third, Oshin second, and Loic first. And in finals, it was nearly the same riders, just in a different order. Gloria Scarzi would take fifth. She's had a great season, Emmy. Can you see her switching to downhill permanently?
Well, yeah, I don't know if permanently, but she wants to do more for sure. And I talked to Fabian Barrel about like working with her as well with Canyon, and he said she's really good to work with. She's a hard worker.
Yeah.
I mean, she's also has a lot to learn, because she's someone that if she doesn't crash, she will have like some podium pace, but she would still crash a lot, like at the Italian champs and stuff, and then get injured and not be 100% for all the races. But now was strong, good technically, so I'm not surprised to see her there. And it's good for the other downhill girls. They get motivated when someone new comes, like Hattie or Gloria. So it's good to see.
So they've just released the schedule today for next season. I've just seen it, and there isn't as much EDR on the same weekends as downhill. There isn't as much downhill, I don't think. There's only 7 races by the looks of it. Do you think we're going to see people going back to doing both?
Maybe. It depends on the teams. I mean, for us, like for Pivot, obviously the mechanics and the team are a bit like intertwined. So it's quite challenging as well when you look about it, because some of the races of an EDR are in between the World Cups.
Yeah.
So you would do Fort William, finale, and then the second one in Poland. So it's like Fort William.
That's a lot of driving.
Yeah. So that's like, yeah, I don't know exactly how they're going to manage it, but yeah, it would take a little bit of logistics to get everything done. But I wouldn't be surprised if more EDR riders do downhill. It will be inspired by Richie and Gloria.
As a team, is it better doing it this way? Like, basically there's a race, not every weekend, but like they spread it out a lot more, but less on the same weekends. Is that better for the teams? Or worse, like they're on the road for longer, but they haven't got as much. I imagine it'd be less mechanics and less staff. Is that?
I don't know. It depends when the races are. If they are like close, it doesn't matter. But if they are very far, then it's more complicated. So I don't know what you think, Jack, as a team manager, but I reckon maybe it's even sometimes worse if you have to like move a mechanic from one location to the other side of Europe.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, the sports are so, they're at such a high level now that it doesn't really work having riders doubling up anyway. So I think, if I was running a team that size that was doing multiple disciplines, that they would operate in different vehicles with different mechanics, and they would have their own schedules. Because also, like, you've got different training schedules for different disciplines. I don't particularly think it works doing it that way anymore. The riders need to be focused on what they're doing, and that would be my take on it if I was doing it that way.
I don't know, like it's more like when I see Matt and Eddie doing downhill races, it's not really at least Matt, I know, it's not really for him to like perform like a top 20 in downhill. It's more like for him to win an EDR race, that he's trying to like, doing these downhill races to like work on his top speed or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped him.
The counter argument to that is a World Cup a place to do that anymore? You get limited practice, usually nightmare logistics, whereas Matt doing that at IXS Cup, so a race close to the venue he's going to next, so that he has less travelling time. Like, you know what I mean? It's the World Cups, in my opinion, are just getting so, as we've already discussed, so elitist that you're either there to compete in that top 30 or you might as well not be there anymore. That's the way they've made us all feel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was close. It's like between 30th and 40th of everyone. So it was like, I think he would put a little bit more effort. He would probably make it, but I don't know if it was his focus, But yeah, it's interesting to see for sure. And I don't know what their plans are for next season, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see who is focused on what.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough to balance it all.
Tani took 4th, Valley 3rd, and on any other day you'd have picked her for the win, but she rode smart to clinch the overall. That's a level of maturity we've perhaps not seen from Valley before, would you say?
Oh, this year she's been very on it with her riding. And I don't know why exactly, but sometimes it just clicks and you just do everything right. And I think also the fact that she crashed in Léger, like in a race run, well, she told me she was like, I was so scared to crash like weeks or months before. She hadn't crashed, even in practice, for so long. And she was used to crashing before. She was like, if I crash, I'm going to hurt myself or I'm going to be injured for the rest of the season. So she was almost relieved to have that crash. Yeah. Actually, she crashed twice. So, and it took like some weight off her shoulder. So and then she ended up like doing what it took to just like close the overall early. So my respect to that. It's like some smart riding for sure.
Yeah. Nina was 2nd, Marine 1st, top 3 separated by just 0.7, which is some super tight racing for the women.
Yeah, Marine's done well in the past there. She's always super motivated and she's like jumped at triple so easily. I remember when I was my last race there, she jumped at triple first and we were like, whoa, actually, this is what we need to do here. So yeah, I also ended up like jumping it on one of my 2 races. But yeah, it's cool to see now like so many more girls did it, even though it's like probably even a bit harder than it was then. So yeah, 0.7 is great racing. So it was great watching for sure.
And in the men's, Bernard took 5th. This was the one, wasn't it? It must be hard to be gutted with a podium. But was he?
I don't know. I think he was probably more gutted last year.
Yeah.
Because he was so close.
Yeah.
And I think he knew this year maybe that he was able maybe to do it. So he didn't take as many risks as he had last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, for him to win, he needs to take all the risks possible at the moment. But I don't think he was gutted because probably he wants more, but he was still pleased with like podium. He's someone that can switch that pretty easily. And yeah, he did a good run. So I don't know. I think he was still kind of stoked in the end.
I think I saw an interview with him where he said, I'm a good racer, but I just want to be great. Just for one weekend, I just want to be a great racer, which I thought was quite a nice way of summing it up. Loris 4th, super smooth. Dak 3rd, fastest in the rocks. Ronan 2nd. And Øisin Callaghan 5th in quali, 2nd in semis, 1st in the race. And we'll be talking to him after these messages.
Expert suspension tuning and customization used to be the preserve of the pros. Not anymore. Let the expert team at J-Tech Suspension take care of your fork, shock, or drop-a-post to experience the feel of factory racing. With over 20 years experience, J-Tech Suspension are the OGs of buttery smooth suspension. Get the Pro Touch and get the best out of yourself and your bike. Visit j-techsuspension.co.uk and chat to the experts in race-ready suspension.
Yo guys, I'm Charlie Hatton here from Continental Afternoon Race Team. We've just been out here for a week in Ride Southern Spain. Been absolutely sick. 5 days of riding on dusty, dry trails. The facilities here are absolutely mega, like the villas, really nice pool, nice workshop area, bike wash facilities. So yeah, it's got everything you need really. Pretty sad this is my last day actually. It was mega. Yeah, I'll definitely be back. You can ride till your arms fall off, I think.
Double O, Øisin Callaghan, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Thank you for having me.
Cool, pleasure. The off-season is upon us. Have you and Ronan hit the bar yet?
Yeah, we went straight from the airport actually to the bar.
I did see the videos, to be fair.
I'm not sure if you actually want to see some of the videos, but yeah, it was a pretty big day.
Yeah, and how long was the hangover on that one?
No, we were actually not too bad. We weren't too bad.
Yeah, athletes, yeah.
Yeah, athletes.
So, obviously, you grew up in Ireland, but you've been coming over to race the GB Nationals since you started racing in 2016.
Yeah.
Start off by just telling us a little bit about those days, because you need a committed parent to help you with that, and I believe your dad's been with you pretty much from the start.
Yeah, with being that young, obviously you're not going to make it unless you have someone funding it and supporting. And I was lucky to have parents that were willing to both buy the bikes, kit, everything, and pay for me to come over. And every time I come over for a national race to get the ferry was pretty expensive looking back.
Yeah.
Obviously at the time you don't realize too much, but looking back now that I have to pay it myself, it was a big expense. So obviously without a parent willing to bring you, it's not possible to get your name out there or be able to compete. So grateful for all those days that my dad was able to bring me over.
Yeah. You were probably just there moaning, going, why have I not got those fancy rims and why have I not got those fancy bars and all that kind of stuff? And your dad's thinking,
well, he always gave me the best equipment. He never wanted to have my equipment fail. So he always went all in bike-wise and kit. So that was never an issue.
Fair play.
Yeah, I know Øisin's dad really well. And I can remember when I first met you guys, and Chris is absolutely on it with like prep in every area. And you need that now, like these young guys coming in, the level's so high. It's obviously Øisin's lucky he had that. All right, dude. So 2017, you kind of started winning from looking back at results. Irish national champ, nationals you were winning. Would you say you did pick it up quite quickly early on?
Yeah, I'd suppose I'd done like kind of a year before where just kind of testing it out, a few races, not taking it too serious, just to see what like everything was like, what the other riders were like. And then when I realized I could probably make a good go of it, we went over, done a full solid season, got a downhill bike, kitted it out and gave it a good go and managed. There wasn't too many like Irish riders to go to the British races and kind of podium or win before me. There was only like a small handful. So once I showed the potential that I was doing just as good as what had been done before, if not better sometimes, my dad obviously was like, yeah, I think it's worth the investment to go all in.
Yeah, so with that then, 2018, you guys moved on to go into Europe, Crankworks in Leger, where you came second. Tell us a bit about those first European adventures. Were they a big step up from what you were doing in Ireland?
I've been quite used to just going like away to Europe on holidays, riding bikes from a young age. I've been going to Øisin since I was 5 years old. So
wow.
Like every year. So going to those like alpine tracks it was almost normal because I'd spend a couple of weeks every summer of like my summer holidays just riding fast tracks, wide open stuff. So it was actually not as much of a culture shock as some other people that end up coming over to Europe kind of for just as their junior year. And they're not used to how fast the tracks are compared to, obviously I was kind of used and prepared, thankfully.
Yeah, for sure. So 2019, good results continued, and you entered the competition that Martin Whiteley and the YT mob were running. They were trying to find 2 riders to bring onto their team. And what George and Emmy probably don't know, and I'd say 99% of our listeners won't know, is I actually had you signed, really, didn't I? Me and your old man had been chatting. And it's going to be my junior.
I thought you were going to say that you'd entered that competition then, Jack.
Yeah, I also thought you were going to say that.
I got a shame. I go, here we go. No, so we had an agreement done, and I spoke to Chris the week before Øisin went out to do the final week of that competition in Spain. And then, was it first day, second run? Is that right? You injured yourself?
Yeah, first day riding. Yeah. Second run, I hurt my wrist and didn't ride for the rest of the week. Yeah. So I was just sitting beside, watching everyone doing the timed runs. Yeah. That was part of the competition to be on the team, and I was just sitting there eating ice cream with Angel. Yeah. I just blew this opportunity. Just kind of feeling sorry for myself a little, but I tried not to let it take over too much, and still tried to stay positive. And that's actually a major reason why Martin decided to still sign me.
Yeah. Well, that's how the conversation started with me and your dad. You came home and he rang me and told me you'd hurt yourself second run. And I thought, oh, good, I've got him. He hasn't been able to ride out there during the week to show how good he is. So he's mine. Thank you. And then Chris went, however, he was that good at bullying and his attitude over there. He's won. And I was like, right. And everything's worked out well because you've had how many years with them and all these achievements, and I got down and that's gone well. So, but yeah, that's probably something that not many people know, that obviously me, yourself and your dad had conversations back then. But yeah, so anyway, you secured the full factory ride on the YT Mob. Incredible thing. Did you find that heaped a load of pressure on you going into the following season, or were you just amped up and ready to go?
I was pretty amped because it was kind of something for the 2 years before, even longer than that. All my aim was to do well as a junior, but to get a factory ride. Yeah. Because I was seeing so many of the English kids getting factory rides when we were in juvenile youth, and they were all getting factory rides on the English factory teams. And I was still a privateer. Yeah. Which kind of drove me on a little.
Pissed you off, yeah. Understandable.
Yeah. And then obviously I got it as a junior, which I think was the right time for me to get it when it counted.
Definitely. Well, you went on and proved that, because after the first lockdown, first race back in 2020, went on and became junior world champion in Callaghan. Obviously a race I remember really well because Dan came in second behind you. So you both did your first junior world race and were on the podium, which was great, with the Scottish rider James Elliott in third. Tell us a little bit about what you can remember of that kind of week and that race, because the weather was bad, conditions were tough, and you would have been 12th in elite. So what are the memories from that week?
That week was it was kind of my first proper race week with the team, because we'd only spent the week at test camp, and then obviously everywhere just got shut down. And I hadn't kind of seen any of them since it probably would have been February or March when we had the team camp. So I hadn't seen any of them for months. And then going into Callaghan, I was pretty excited after spending the last 4 months just bike park laps all day. Yeah. And looking at how the weather was, I like a wet race, and it was kind of all just what I was hoping for. And I had kind of pictured doing well that weekend, the weeks before. And I didn't expect it to go as well as it did, but yeah, it all just kind of clicked.
Yeah. Well, I remember, Emmy, I'm not sure if you were trackside that weekend or not, but I remember being trackside with
of course I was.
I didn't want to, had you retired by then or?
Oh, no, I broke my knee that weekend, so I was trackside.
Yeah.
And Cam won, so it was kind of a good weekend.
Oh, of course. Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, I don't know if you remember the same as me, that there were just 2 or 3 juniors, Øisin, Dan, and a couple of others that were standing out during practice, and everyone was kind of saying, okay, now those guys are going to go well. And then you went on in finals and did. So yeah, it was definitely one to remember for you.
Yeah.
So straight after Callaghan, we all traveled off to Maribor. It was 5 races in 4 weeks or whatever it was. It was all very crammed, shortened season. Tale of two halves for you. You won the first 2 World Cups in Maribor. The second one you won by 6 seconds. In Loser, you seeded second both races, but ended up 24th and 20th. I remember you cracked one of them. Was the other one a crash as well, or with a mechanical?
Flat tire.
So, okay. How good were you? Because obviously Ethan snatched the World Cup overall from you. Were you still just happy with your season, or was it not that feeling?
I should have been. Now looking back, I should have been a lot happier. But I was so annoyed. I remember in that second Lausa race, I was just a junior that I was so frustrated.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I just wanted to go straight home to the gym and drop heavy weights. I've never actually experienced frustration like it and anger. That's probably the angriest I've been after a bike race, because all I knew, I was told before, all I had to do was enter better and I would have got the overall.
Yeah. And you chucked it in the bushes.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking going out the start gate, but I just was trying to break every turn on the track.
Yeah, I've seen the crash video and I remember thinking, look, what was he doing? He only had to come 10.
Yeah, I just didn't make the turn. I just went straight over it.
Would you say you went on from that? Did you learn important lessons and have you become a better athlete because of it? Or was it just junior naivety that is what it is?
It definitely taught me you have to still be somewhat smart. Like, you have to play. Like, I could have had an overall title and I just threw it away by just doing something silly.
Yeah.
And all I have to do was listen to the likes of Martin that told me some really good advice.
Yeah.
And it was simple advice, but I just, for some reason, did not listen to it.
Nothing to do with being 18-year-old and full of testosterone.
Yeah.
I mean, even I don't have a lot of testosterone. I'm still doing some crap like that where you have a broken shoulder and you're not allowed to crash, but you still go full on and crash again on it. So, I mean, even if you're over 30, you do this type of stuff for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, because 2020 was a weird season. What, we had only 4 races, 2 different locations, and then not a lot of races for an overall. So I guess if you miss one, you already kind of lost the overall. So I guess it must have been very frustrating for you. And like Jack said, 2021. So it's like your second junior season after being world champion, after winning World Cups and by big margin. You would probably expect yourself to dominate, right? Or at least be up there the whole way. From the results, it doesn't really look like it pan out that way. Can you explain a little bit what the 2021 season looked like from your perspective?
Yeah, 2021 was, obviously I had big expectations going in. And I did not meet those expectations at all, but only one podium at the last race. So everything was going good until qualifying day, I think it was, in Callaghan. And I'm not sure what I'd done to my wrist. It was going into the woods. There was all those rutted sections and I got cross-rutted and just awkwardly fell on my wrist and got that weekend over and done with. And it was the week before Leger. I think there was a 2-week gap. I actually had not many people know, I actually had a massive crash and got a big concussion where I still can't remember anything. I was vomiting, blurry vision. I had to stay in cold water, dark room for a few days. And this was all before kind of what was coming out with Reese, all the concussion symptoms. So it was I think it was the year before or a few months before where everything was really starting to get exposed. And now looking back, I probably shouldn't have been racing. I should have been taking time off. So I remember that week in Leger was a massive struggle. Doing track walk, I couldn't remember the track. I couldn't remember practice. I couldn't remember the lines. And I was just full struggle the whole week. And I was happy to get that one out of the way. And then it still took quite a few months. I remember I was sleeping until 12 o'clock during the day for the next month and a half after. And I was having to get woken up. So it took quite a long time to get over that concussion and head injury. Now looking back, I can see why there's a lot more protocols, but it was kind of the year before everything got really big. And if it happened now, it would have been a complete different story. You would have been taking those races off. And then I was starting to feel good in the bike. And then Maribor happened. Didn't qualify for that one. So that was a big culture shock, not qualifying. First World Cup, I hadn't qualified. And then went on to Val di Sole and everything was starting to feel back to normal, qualifying first. And then I almost got the second junior title. I crashed, I think, in the second last turn before coming out of the woods, and I was green on all the splits. So that weekend was the main weekend all year that I was looking for. and it was close. It just wasn't quite close enough.
Yeah.
And then Lenzerheide after that, flat tire, and I was like, oh my God, this is a disaster. And then we had the double header on snowshoe.
Yeah.
And the first one, again, I was green on the first, I think, 4 splits and crashed, or 3 splits, crashed right at the end. And then there was only 1 race left, and I was like, I'm just going to go out and try and at least podium instead of try and win. And that's what I done. And I was actually quite happy to get that podium at the end of that year. After that podium and all year from coming back, like to come from winning and a big margin to not qualifying and crashing was a relief to get a podium at least in my last junior race. So I was quite happy with that 1 podium.
Well, I didn't know any of that. That's tough. Especially like, do you think, I know we talked, especially like since the past few years, a lot about concussions, but I can see that still with people like Miriam or whoever now, sometimes you think you're fine. And then like the fact of you like also maybe on concentration or like whatever, do you think the fact that you were crashing more in your race runs, like do you think it's also related maybe to the fact that you maybe struggled more to focus than before, or did you notice that went away? I don't feel like I've seen you crash a lot in practice now when I watch you ride. So I don't know if it's like on that year especially, or...
It was more probably my 2 junior years I was crashing more.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much anymore, which I've managed to, which is probably a good thing. Well, it is a good thing. But yeah, as a junior, I remember in Maribor 2020, I had like, for that double header, I think 4 or 5 crashes over the weekend.
Mm.
Like massive ones.
Yeah.
All the time.
A little bit like Ronan.
Yeah, literally, I was just having huge crashes and somehow getting up. Yeah. Which I'm still surprised about some of them.
Yeah.
But you think also because now you had that big crash that had such consequences, like you weren't aware maybe that crashing on your head could have such consequences on your season, that maybe also one of the reasons why now you try to like minimize like the crashes also at race weekends so you can like perform.
You definitely try it. Now coming off like such a kind of, you could say, serious head injury or a big one, you're definitely more aware and you don't like a bit more cautious of if you're out training, you're a bit like, oh, there's no need to send this massive gap. Because that's all it was. I was out just testing and sent this massive jump and had a huge crash for no reason. And if now looking back, I should not have been sending that the week before the World Cup on testing something I'd only done. That was actually my first day on the bike I was testing, and I should like just been easing into just doing normal junior stuff, not actually processing what's going on around me. Instead of just going up, doing a few easy runs, relaxing, I was just straight in, full race pace, sending big jumps and just not used to the bike at all. And just one small mistake just costs basically the whole season.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to learn from this type of stuff. So this season, Jordan and Jackson joined juniors as well, 2021.
Yeah.
And obviously knowing now that what we know, they took quite the limelight from everyone. And it was a bit like, oh, you've got these 2 like generational talents that come out and smash it. Like, let's focus on them. Let's talk about them all the time. Did it feel like that to you as well?
It was a bit like not annoying, just a small bit frustrating that because there was so many races that I was green on the splits but crashed. Yeah, and I was beating them like the year before if we were racing like time wise, or the year before that, and then for everything just to get completely spun around. And I knew I could go fast enough. I just was making small mistakes that were just so annoying at the time. Yeah. That every race I was almost guaranteed something to happen. At one point I was like, this is going so bad. Yeah, for sure. 2022, then you move up to elite after that hard 2021, and you qualify your first for World Cups. So that's like a pretty great achievement. You also 10th in time training in Leogang, which seems to be a track that you like. You qualified 14th. Also a good indication of what was to come.
What was the high point of 2022 for you?
2022 probably was Leogang, but also it was Leogang. I crashed in the race, but time training and qualifying, I was really happy with. Just when it was raining, I was having such a good time. I was actually on dry tires all weekend, even in the rain. I was just having in the mud, roll offs, full waterproofs. Got a little bit overexcited for the race with it being kind of my first elite one, warming up at the same time as all the other big names. So went out, crashed second turn, but that was an experience. And then actually Andorra, I got injured. It was the first time. It actually been since the start of 2019. It'd been the first time since I broke a bone. So it was almost like a relief that I was injured.
Yeah.
Like, because it'd been like so long since I'd been out for a few races with an actual injury. It was almost like a fresh start. Like, I got back 2 weeks after. I was just like training, casts, broken collarbone. I was like doing road rides like a week and a half in, and it was just like full fresh start. And when that happened, I was already looking forward to this season. Just loads of bike time and everything. It just reminded me back of 2020, getting injured at the start of 2019, kind of get refresh. And then 2020 was a good one. And it was just, everything was lining up to be kind of the same.
Yeah. So you broke your wrist and your collarbone, right, in the crash.
Yeah.
And you wanted to come back for Worlds in Leger, but then, like you said, was it the wrist that wasn't ready? Was the collarbone fine? Or?
It was just the wrist, because I broke 3 bones in the wrist.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like really badly dislocated. All the it was mainly the muscles were just, they hadn't time to repair at all. And the collarbone, was all good. I popped out the AC joint. That was all good. And the week of Leger was 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks from when I done it. And the cast was meant to be on 6. So it was going to be tight if I was going to be able to ride that week.
Yeah.
And I tried to do one run, but it hit like the jumps and the braking bumps. It was a no-go, but it was still good to get out.
I went and watched the crash this morning because it's on your Instagram, the one in Andorra.
Yeah.
And you got unclipped coming around a left-hander. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah. It was such a small mistake. I unclipped because I slid and I couldn't flip back in.
Yeah.
Like just in time, and my foot slid off the pedal and caught a rock and just straight over the handlebars.
Yeah.
It's really interesting what you said though about the relief that when you get injured, sometimes you like, because in the script I meant to ask you if you were gutted, but it seems like you probably were gutted for like a few hours or days, but it felt like some athletes, when they are under pressure of performing or whatever, and sometimes something like this happen, you can take time for yourself and like feel like you can, like you said, have a fresh start.
Yeah.
And it happened to me a couple of times as well. And it's pretty interesting that to see your perspective as a young athlete, especially like on a big team, and you want to achieve stuff, but then you get injured and you're like, oh, this is my opportunity to like get ready, take a little bit of time for me.
Yeah.
And really, really interesting. Like, did you, like, I feel like you're not someone that is like scared after injuries. Like, do you like recover mentally or so pretty quickly from the injury that you had?
I felt like straight after that crash and injury, I was like fully refreshed. Like, I was not scared to crash on it again. It was more before I'd gotten so like almost 3 or 4 years without any broken bones. I was like, surely soon I'm going to end up breaking something again. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, here we go. Like, I've so
it's
much longer now. Yeah.
No, but like, it's funny.
Yeah. Like, fully refreshed. Like, I was like, yeah, let's go into the off season.
Nice. Well, moving on to the 2023 season then. You started well, second in Portugal at the round in Seja, second at the IXS Cup in Winterberg. But then moving to Lenzerheide, you didn't qualify, you came 63rd. But I mean, you lost a shoe, and I know where you lost the shoe. and I raced that race. And if you asked me to ride down from that whale tail jump to the bottom without a shoe, I'd tell you to fuck off. How did you come 63rd? Bearing in mind that I was 43rd only, or 47th, I think, only 1.3 seconds ahead of 60th. So how did you do that? Like, talk us through. Was it hurting? I just can't wrap my head around it.
It was sore. It was, but look, if someone told me, like, all I had to do was suck the pain up a small bit more, I would have done it just for that, like, 0.1 of a second.
Yeah.
But look, like, when the shoe came off, I was like, there's no chance of me qualifying if I stop. So I may as well just give it a crack and just stay going.
How did the shoe come off?
Well,
there was kind of
before the whale tail jump that we hit, and I actually on track walk after that sent a photo into the group and was like,
I remember that.
Needs to go. It's on the inside where we're tipping the bike in, and I said it ripped Ocean's shoe off today. He didn't qualify because of it, and surprise, surprise, the next morning it was gone. But yeah, that's why the shoe come off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that picture of you going between the rock, in the last rock garden where Gwynny got. That photo, anyone's not seen it, look it up. You can just see how close your toes are to that rock. It's like, oh my God.
I am lucky that, like, I was so close to hitting so many rocks. I am lucky my foot didn't slip off, because I could have broken my toes, foot, or anything. So easy.
You're on Crank Brothers, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, so
did you know?
At least you've got the little pins to dig into your foot then.
No, but Crank Brothers are the worst. They're like, you're just moving forward. That freaking thing's moving around.
Oh, you mean the egg beater spinning.
Yeah.
The egg beater spinning is the worst bit of the...
That was the sorest bit. That bit sticking up onto my foot.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I'll believe you.
It's a hell of an achievement, honestly. Okay, so moving on. 17th in Leogang, first elite top 20. Obviously, we know you like the place. Do you prefer it in the wet or the dry?
I prefer any track in the wet.
Even snowshoe?
Snowshoe.
You're a psycho.
I didn't ride it in the wet last year, but
okay. Yeah, but
any track like Baldasol.
Yeah, I love riding a mud track in the wet, but I'm different to you. I'm putting my mud tires on. Like, I'll still enjoy it, and arguably enjoy it more than the dry, but not snowshoe, not them rocks. You're a savage.
I just love when it's raining.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a thing about that? Right. I've heard a thing that people say, if you just go out and tell yourself, I love the rain, I love the rain, I love the rain, and just go with that approach, rather than a lot of people go, oh, fucking hell, it's raining. Oh, fucking
I think that's
hell.
just life.
Yeah,
if you approach anything with a positive mindset, you'll get way more from it than if you approach it with a negative mindset.
Yeah.
Well, I think it helps also if it rains a lot where you live.
Yeah.
And then you're like, look outside. You can't tell yourself, oh, fuck, it's raining. If it's raining every day, you'll be like miserable all the time. So if you live in California, you'll be like, oh, wow, it's raining. But like, I guess Ocean where you live, it rains quite a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. Most winter rides are the wet, just fully soaked, like 5 minutes into the ride.
Yeah.
And you're just guaranteed to be wet for the whole ride. So it's just normal.
It's normal. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Leogang was your first experience making it through a semi-final. How did you find it? Are you a fan of the new semi? What's your feeling on it?
It's definitely different. Like, I think I didn't mind too much at the start once I'd done Leogang, but going from doing Fort William with just one race run, then the way Andorra played out with just one race run, going back to Loudenville, having the semis and the finals was like a big culture shock.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the way it was before because I'd gone missed World Cups at the end of last year and then missed Lenzerheide, the semis in Leogang. It had been almost a year since I'd raced the World Cup. Yeah. So it was I'd kind of forgot what it was like before.
Novelty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I asked I asked Loris the same question in Snowshoe on the chairlift. I think it was the morning before semi. We were going up after a practice run. And his answer was, on some tracks, he doesn't really care. On some tracks, he maybe likes it. But he said, his words were, Snowshoe? No, thank you. Like, his attitude was he didn't want to have to do more flat out runs than he absolutely had to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think for the most part, I think once the track's anything like kind of a Val di Sole, a snowshoe, or Montanam, people, especially Montanam, where they give people no points. It's just a hell of a load of risk. Okay, so Val di Sole crashed in quali and didn't make it through, but then went on to Fort William and came 12th at Worlds. Remember that one?
I was very happy with that one. Then it was kind of my first top 15. I'd missed one, first top 20, missed one, first top 15. It was kind of all like clicking again.
Nice. Okay. And then on to Andorra, where you'd obviously had a bad one the year before.
Yeah.
You came 9th, first top 10. So did it really feel like things were starting to build by that point?
And it felt like everything was building, but I was trying, but I wasn't like getting too reckless, not too out of control. I felt like I was riding inside my comfort zone, which my plan was. So I wasn't having big crashes. I just felt like steady. I was just building momentum.
Yeah, okay. So we went on to Ludenville, 8th in the semi-final.
Yeah.
Again, like you just said, building. But then took a crash in the same corner as where Charlie and Benoit crashed.
Yeah.
Were you disappointed and, gutted you didn't get the final result you wanted, or were you just happy with your 8th in the semi? What was the feeling there?
I was still really happy coming from the 12th, the 9th, and then the 8th. And I think my splits were still top 10.
Yeah.
So I was still really happy with how everything was going.
Yeah. Okay.
So moving up to Léger, again, like you said, you're like on and off. You crashed in quali, so you didn't get that one, but you were coming into Snowshoe with the 43rd plate, number 43.
Yeah.
So it's like a midfield plate. How are you feeling coming into that week? Like you were like, oh, number 43, like I can do way better than that, or how were your confidence level?
Yeah, my goal is to try and because I was kind of getting close to the top 20 overall before Léger, and my goal was maybe by the end of the year I might just creep into the top 20, and then after not making it Léger, I got pushed back quite a few spots.
I think you were 33rd, even though you had the 43 plate. You were 33rd.
Oh yeah, because the plates don't make any sense.
Yeah. And I don't know, everything that weekend, I had 2 weeks at home. I think I rode my enduro bike twice. Went on 2 big trail rides. So I didn't do too much in those 2 weeks. Just relaxed, golf, and coming in to Snowshoe, I was like, I haven't ridden my downhill bike much recently, but first practice run, instantly I felt like, oh, that was good.
Yeah.
And me and Rona were just smashing laps all weekend. Like we did, we try and do it most race weekends. We were just smashing laps and qualified 5th. And that was my actual first full run of the weekend. And I remember being like, oh, I thought that was going to be way more physical. And everyone was like, that was so hard. And I was like,
was it?
I was like, oh, I actually didn't think it was too bad, and qualified 5th. So I was like, oh, that was strange.
Yeah,
maybe it was just
I think Snowshoe is one of them tracks. Like once you find the rhythm, it's easier than when you're practicing and stopping and stuff. My easiest run of the whole weekend was my race run. Like it was the fastest run, and it was my easiest because all the other ones I was either like making mistakes and then stiffening up, or so like you say, you've just found that flow state and gone, oh, I'm at the bottom.
Yeah. And then second in semis, I was just kind of surprised with how fast I was actually going without trying as hard as I could. And then
it's probably a good time for me to just interject there, because I was sat with you at the bottom after that as we watched the last however many riders come through. I guess there were 4 after you because you qualified 5th. Yeah. So, and I don't remember seeing anyone, especially with the 43 plate on the front of your bike, sat there so calm. You were just, and I think I asked you, didn't I? Loris was coming down. Was it Loris or Loic?
Loic, I think.
I said to you, do you want to come down last or do you want him to beat you? And you just kind of looked at me and I think you just went, I don't really care. Like, you just lost so much confidence that you could go up there and do it again. And for any young racers listening, like, I think that's what you've got to have. You had that self-belief that you were like, well, I've just done that run. That was me and I feel good and going to go and do it again. It was.
But did you feel the same when you're actually in the Stargate and you were like second to last? Did you feel also as relaxed, or we are like a little bit getting the nerves?
I was a little bit nervous, but I think it's normal. But
yeah, of course.
It wasn't like I done a bad semis or like a somewhat decent or a bad qualifying. I knew I had the speed. It was just a case of putting one down.
Yeah.
But that's like, it doesn't make sense to me though, because when I know I have the speed and I need to put one down, that makes me more nervous.
Oh no, I'm the same notion. I'm nervous as fuck if the evidence isn't there. Like,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Whereas and that's why time training was always so important to me when I always used to be in time training and stuff. Like, I wasn't like Gwynny where I'd like wouldn't do a timed run because he'd just like be like, well, I'll be ready tomorrow, so I don't need to. I'd always need to like see that evidence to like as part of the process. And then if I was getting times that were good, and that would then lift me up, and I'd be like, yeah, you fuckers are having it. And I'd be sat in the gate actually wanting to drop in and like shorthand. Whereas if you like qualified 50th, like in Mont St. Anne, my head wasn't in it. And I was just like, I'm just going to roll down and enjoy it. Whereas if I'd qualified 10th, fucking hell, I would have had boxing gloves on in the gate. But I think I'm a little bit
That's
like...
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Really interesting. So when you were like writing down, obviously we saw like the split, you were fast as a split one, top three in the other sector. When you're writing down, like, are you talking to yourself? Or are you thinking, oh, like, I've done a good run so far, like, don't bin it now? Or, like, how was your approach while you're writing? Or you totally focused and...
I was just pushing kind of as hard as I could the whole way.
Okay.
Because I knew Andreas, I was kind of warming up close to Andy, called up at the top. And he told me, you may as well, you just have to go all in. Like, there's nothing to lose. You may as well just send it.
Yeah, but do you think he was telling you that though, thinking, yeah, he'll crash second corner? That's another person I don't have to worry about.
Andy wouldn't do it. If that was Bernard, I would be like, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's Andy, so I don't think...
Something would actually change the start. I was riding with Ron and Andy all week, and something would actually change that week as well was something Andy said at the start of the week. It was kind of slippy, and there was rain coming. Rain promised that the rain never came. And I remember Andy saying, I remember saying, oh, I hope it rains. And he's like, why? And I was like, I just prefer riding in the wet. And he's like, I've seen you on track a few times today, and you do not need it to rain.
Yeah.
And he said, I ride like some sections in the rain just as fast as some people in the dry, just because of how confident I am in the wet. And he said, if you can ride fast in the wet, you can ride fast in the dry.
Yeah.
And that was what he said to me, I think, going into my third practice run on the first day.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And after that,
to that point as well is like being a good wet rider essentially just means you're a really good technical rider.
Yeah.
And snowshoes are the most technical track on the circuit, so it's no surprise you excelled there. Go on, say what you're going to say. Sorry.
And then after that, I was just like, yeah, he's true. And I just, everything just started clicking. Then the qualifying semis, and then he told me again before the finals, and I was like, I may as well just go all in, like he said before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it paid off.
Cool. So you're in the hot seat, and I remember watching on TV, and there's one rider to go, and that's Loic Bruni. We all know what Loic did in the past his snowshoe. He has a good record for this track. So how did you accept him to take it? How was your feeling? Did you like stoked already, or?
I was already so stoked because I hadn't podiumed yet. It was kind of like, I came into the hot. I would have been stoked if I came into fourth, second, third, because it would have been my first podium. And then when I came down into the lead, I was like, no, I actually want to win now. Like, I don't want. I don't want a podium. I want to actually, now that there's a chance of me winning, I'm like, yeah, I want to win. And I was tired after that run. I remember getting across the line and the relief, the tiredness. Then I went into the hot seat was madness. It took a while to get my head around it. And then watching Bruni come down, it was tight. I was on the edge of my seat watching. I was like, this is really close. And I think the split just before he crashed, he was like 0.038 up. And I was just hoping that with the buttons on his handlebars, when he got out of the last woods, that when he started sprinting, if he locked his suspension out, he wasn't gonna gain too much time. And it could have been, I think it would have been close, but he would have definitely, I think he might have had me on the sprint, locking the suspension out.
Yeah.
So when I actually didn't really see him go down, that's why I think my face was so shocked. I was like putting my glasses on. I was kind of looking ahead, and Roland just grabbed me, and I looked at the screen in front by the hot seat, and he was just on the ground. And I was like, I didn't even know what had happened. I was like, Roland just said, "You just won a World Cup."
Yeah.
And I was just in shock.
Yeah, your face was a picture.
It was brilliant. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Even I was like, I mean, I know Loic way better than I know you, but I was like, almost in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm so happy for this kid. And I never really talked to you before. So I was like, I think a lot of people felt like it. And obviously we all like, oh, hopefully Loic is not hurt or whatever. But he's tough. And then, what did he say to you when he crossed the line? I mean, I know how Loic reacts when something like this happens. He's so pissed. I was like, he looked really pissed when he crossed the line.
I think he was definitely hurt, knowing that the chances of his overall fight could have been like, it was definitely going to end up coming down to the last race, and with a few others possibly being able to take it off him. That was the main thing I think he was kind of pissed over. Yeah. But yeah, he sent me a message after the race, which like looking, I've looked up to for years, being a big idol, was crazy to come down, like seeing him, like being so close. It was absolute madness.
Yeah, but
yeah, sick. Well, you backed it up going into Mont Saint Anne. You were 5th in quali, 18th in semi, and then 12th in finals. So was it a little bit different after you win? Like, what was the media attention like that week?
Yeah, I remember dropping in, I think, for my semis run, and the amount of cameras that was on me. I had like 2 or 3 cameras in front, a few cameras behind. There was just photographers everywhere, rolling to the start gate while I was warming up the whole time. It was tricky, but it was kind of like after I won Junior Worlds again. It was the same thing, is how it felt. So it was just on a bigger level. But yeah, that weekend again, it was my first time in Mont Saint Anne. So it was
big respect.
tricky. There was a bit of learning to do, which was helpful following Andy and Ronan again that weekend. They were just able to show me the lines, and I was able to kind of get towed into stuff. But warming up for the finals run, I was happy with how the season went from the weekend before, and I just wanted to put down, I knew it was, the chances of me winning were like so slim. It would have been nice to get a podium. Even to get a podium, it would have been like hard work with how many times all the others had been here. Yeah. But to be close to the top 10, I was still so happy with.
Yeah, for sure. That's an impressive ride. I don't want to even tell you what happened my first time on Saint Anne.
Yeah, it took me a couple of minutes to get around it.
Yeah, I mean, for us ladies, it's like really, really hard track because we spend a little bit more time on a track than you guys. So it's even longer.
Yeah.
And I think this year they did a good job with the track. I feel like that new section was like pretty sick to watch as well. And it seemed really fun to ride too.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was sick.
I reckon it's the most physical one.
Yeah.
It's a different type of physical to snowshoe.
Similar to Barbasol.
Yeah. Like I don't get arm pump or anything, which I'm quite like lucky with. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But Mont Saint Anne was the only one where I was coming out of the last woods with like my fingers. I was like, my hands are actually tired from this track. Yeah. I was like stretching my fingers on the handlebars before that last little sprint.
Were you going like this? Like people?
Not quite that extreme. But that was a tiring one.
Yeah, for sure. So we ended up 17th in the overall in the end. So like that was these 2 last races really helped you to come from like the 33rd place overall that you had before until top 20. Were you happy with that in the end? It's like, that was your goal.
Yeah, I was happy. Like, the main thing I was happy about, I didn't really care too much about anything else. That I just got an Elite World Cup win. That was like the highlight of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
And
for sure.
all like the overall, I wasn't like too stressed about anymore. But looking back, it's hard to say. But if I like didn't miss out on those 2 or 3 other World Cups, I could have like got an extra few points I was looking at. But it's hard to say. It's downhill racing.
Does it, like your mindset coming into snowshoe of what you can achieve in your career, is it different now?
Yeah. Knowing that you have won one or been on the podium.
And you can do it.
Yeah, you just believe that you can be up there every weekend if you want, if you have the right mindset.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't do it every weekend.
Yeah. So the current Tuez is a full 29, I think.
Yeah.
There's rumours of a new bike, which I presume will be mullet. Are they just rumours, or have you been testing already?
There will be something coming soon.
All right, that's fine.
Very fashion.
Also, rumours of some big names joining the YT downhill program next season. I'm presuming you're still on the program next season.
Yeah, I'm still there.
Excellent. I'm not going to ask you about the people joining. I won't put that in.
There's a lot of rumours.
There are a lot of rumours.
There is a lot.
Thank you for making time to come on the podcast. It was incredible, as I said earlier, to watch you win. It was just something good for the soul when somebody different wins, somebody from further down the rankings. And it's something special about our sport that someone ranked 33rd can still win a race. I hope we don't lose that. Enjoy the F season and best of luck for next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, mate. Obviously forward into the get-go, and it's nice to see it all coming together. Keep it going.
Cheers, Øisin.
Yes.
Yeah, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Cool.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
On to Mont Saint Anne and your final World Cup, Jack. 59th in qualifying. Was there a point at which you didn't think you were going to make it through to the semi?
Oh, mate, honestly, like, as I said before, I've always hated qualifyings, and that one was definitely the worst, because I was like, I know I'm riding pretty well. Like, I wasn't aiming for anything, exceptional, but obviously I desperately wanted to race. The last thing I wanted at my last ever World Cup was to not qualify. I think I was like 45th or something at the top split, just like everything was sound. And then there was so many like soft holes and like areas you could crash, and I just took it too steady. Like I just was steady on the way down, and I saw my time and I was like, shit, I'm not going to qualify. And I just went back to the pits. I think I went into 50th, but I was like, I know there's a few people left, and I wasn't interested in sitting there and watching that. So I went back to the pits, got changed, took stuff to the car. And the only reason I was still hanging around was to get my phone off Sam. I was like literally away. And Roger Vieira come over to me. I was talking to someone else saying, I've just blown my chance to race my last World Cup riding too slow, whatever I was saying. And Roger was like, mate, you're in. And Roger likes to have a bit of a joke. I know Roger real well. I went, don't fuck with me right now. I thought he was winding me up. He knew I was like not messing, and he looked at his phone again, then he refreshed it, and he was like, no, mate, you're 59th, you're in. And it was just relief. I was just like, oh, fuck for that. Like, that would have been so embarrassing to be 61st again. So yeah, it was, made the 61st in Leger worth it to then be able to squeeze in there. That's the way I'm seeing it.
And 48th in your final World Cup. It all panned out well, didn't it? It's, I'm sure there's a lot of people, if you were retiring, there's a lot of people that wouldn't get into as many semi-finals as you've done this season.
Yeah, honestly, I've made 6 out of 8. I was 61st in Leger. Leogang, it was just the weather. I came down in that block where nobody really qualified. So yeah, consistently being in. I've enjoyed my season. And honestly, before we left obviously we'll talk about this more when you do the 20 questions thing, but before we left for those North American rounds, I had big hopes of like making the final and maybe even finishing my best ever result. And certainly when I injured my leg in snowshoe, that all just changed. And my mindset gradually over the 2 weeks just became more about just enjoying it and just seeing it out on like a healthy, like happy way. And my semi-finals run, which I had no ambitions by that point to be making finals. And the guys said to me when we were watching the rest of semis, they said, if you do have to go up again, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I will honestly stop in the rock garden and have a beer with the crowd. Like, Like I was so over it by that point. I just wanted to enjoy my day. And just, see out 14 years of like, just what an awesome opportunity to have experienced. So it was just 48, 54, 30. I couldn't give a shit by that point. I was just enjoying it and I had a smile on my face. And it was, bit of a relief it was over, to be honest. Just ready to move on now.
Cool. Well, congratulations on your retirement. And well done. We'll do the full, like you just mentioned, we're going to do the full 20 questions and we'll see if we can get Dean on as well and somebody else we've got planned as well. So junior women, Valentina Roa Sanchez took the win and with it the overall. That's a super consistent season for her. Top 4 at every round, Emmy.
Yeah, I mean, she was junior last year, so she obviously had a bit of experience internationally and was on the podium at Worlds as well in Leger.
Yeah.
She had a few crashes in like some of the races she didn't podium, but I think it makes sense that she took in the overall because she's super solid mentally as well and she's a super hard worker. The other ones are too, but they're still younger. So a year of experience in that age makes huge difference. So we'll see, like most of the Kiwis are still junior next year. So it'll be a good fight. And Lisa Bouloudou was second year junior as well. So she's going to move up.
Yeah. So Sasha Ernest was second, Lisa Bouloudou third, which meant Lisa finished second in the overall with Iris third and Sasha fourth, which is a great return from 5 races for her. Rumours abound that there'll be big changes at Trek Factory Downhill next season. Will we see Sasha on that team full time?
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you wouldn't like pick up someone half season that young if you were like just going to be for a few rounds. It wouldn't make sense to me. But talking to Chandro, Jack's side, he was like, I think he asked me about her, I think in Lenzerheide already. And he was like, I think she can be good one day. Like if we like give her a chance. So I think it's really cool that they did that because I think she is the one with the most, let's say like room for improvement in her racing craft. Her riding is already amazing, but like the way she approaches races is sometimes, obviously she doesn't have a lot of experience and you can see that. So I think it's going to be a big help having people surrounding her that can help her with that.
So in junior men, shout out to Don Platt, who qualified first and ended up 5th, and Luca Furlow, who ended up 4th. But it was a French 1-2-3 with Kimi Viardot in 3rd, Milan Falque in 2nd, and Nathan Pontveon taking the win by nearly 4 seconds with nearly the perfect run. Fastest in 4 of the 5 sectors and second fastest in Sector 2. It feels like the season started with a bunch of junior men doing really well. There was Christian Hauser, Leo Abella, Henry Kiefer, Bodie Kuhn, and they all got injured or their form dipped. And by the end of the season, we had a completely different set of riders on the podium. We've heard all season how wild the juniors are. Is managing injury the biggest challenge when you've got juniors on the team?
Certainly one of them. I think one of the other challenges, like you said, like dips in form, and like it's something I was discussing with some, Owen and some of my guys. Like if as an elite, if you have a bad day, you might be 1 second slower or 2 seconds slower than you potentially could have been. Like to use Owen as an example, I know he doesn't listen anyway, so he's not going to hear me using this as an example. I've said this to him, but in snowshoe, in qualifying for juniors, Don Platt beat Owen by about 20 seconds and he didn't qualify. 6 days later, Dom only beat Owen by 3 seconds at Mont Saint Anne. Owen didn't crash the first time. You can't have a 17-second bad day. And I think with the juniors, a lot of it is just getting them to have their process and, like Emmy just said, their racecraft boxed off enough that they're always turning up to work. And that's what we've seen Ryan do week in, week out, up until he hurt himself at Mont Saint Anne. And I think that this all comes back to, Emmy, something you asked Øisin earlier, like the mistakes he was making as a junior, he's not crashing as much anymore and he's not doing this, that and the other because he's learned over the past 4 or 5 years. He's got his process in place. He's become an elite racer. And I think with the juniors, a lot of it is you have to be so on them all the time. They're either just doing something stupid and it's not their fault. They're just young. And this is one of the pressures I've had to retire from racing at the top level. Because while I've been doing that for my program, I've not had the time to constantly guiding these guys away from basically the dumb shit that we all did when we were that age. That's my 2 pence on it.
Yeah, with the 2 juniors out of the team, it's also a new thing for me this year, having the Injuit and Ryan Griffiths on the team. And they're both very different riders as well. Like one is almost like 2 meter high and the other one is tiny. And they have like both different strengths and like weaknesses. So it's kind of interesting and hard at the same time to coach riders that's so different, even though they came from the same place. They both left from Whistle Squamish.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But like, and they race on the same bike and everything, but they're like, and they're also sometimes really close as well in time.
Yeah.
But they're so different to coaches. It's really interesting to see. And I've noticed from them, like the tracks make a difference. Like for Dane, if there's a track that he likes and he can do well on, he will have that little extra, that you put in. And like an elite racer has that as well. But I don't think he makes that much of a difference. For the juniors, when they love the track or they like gel with the track, they'll be so much faster than on a track that they like average, like you said. So it's like really interesting to see. And like, but I'm not surprised by the Frenchie because I know them from like previous years. And Nathan Ponvian has been winning the French champs, also the French Cups, elite times.
Yeah.
But he's crashing so much. Like he crashed in snowshoe, one of the vlogs from Eddie and stuff. And he's had a lot of crashes, but he'll be real fast next year in the elite for sure.
Yeah.
He's going through what Øisin went through, isn't he? He's finding his speed and finding his race ground.
Exactly.
So in elite women, Valley took the win by 13 seconds. Marine and Nina were on a similar pace, but both crashed out, chasing second in the overall, which Nina claimed. It was a pressure-free run from Valley, that wasn't it? It was just this is what I can do.
Yeah, I mean, from everyone racing, we were almost hoping Valley would win because it was like Marine was on one. She was pushing because she knows with Valley being that fast, she needs to like put everything out there. And she crashed in the very like almost the only like the last place you could crash. She crashed on. We were like, oh my God. And Nina like double cased the finish line and like rolled into the finish with 2 flat tires. And I was like, what is this? Like, there's some crazy scenario. I mean, she had her like spectacular finishes in the past, but we were like, oh, come on, like Valley put a solid rundown that we can have like a race winner that really had a good run, and she did that. Like, she was like, you could see she was completely focused and hit her line, didn't do anything that special, but some places she was going real fast when she knew she could, and some places she was riding so fast, so it was impressive to see.
And after taking 3rd place in semis, our next guest claimed her first podium with a fabulous 5th place. We'll be back with Hattie Harden after these messages.
My name is Emilie and I asked Tralby to develop the best downhill tire ever.
Emery asked us for something that offers an edge over Magic Mary.
We are all looking for something new, I guess. We needed something for more precision. So from that, we just worked all together to make it happen.
Being fair, actually, the team started the development. Maxime, he started to cut down a big Betty and try to get it into shape to make it work.
The grip is just perfect. The Taki-chan just gives you the best precision you need.
It just gives you a lot of braking traction, safety, and corner hold. It's like riding on rails. So if you're an active rider, it's super rewarding. If you're a passive rider, it's still a fantastic time.
If you're enjoying the Making Up the Numbers podcast, hit subscribe now so you don't miss an episode, and drop us a review whenever it's convenient. For additional content, follow us on Instagram at Making Up the Numbers Racing.
Choose single track. Choose print. Choose digital. Choose an independent mountain bike magazine. Choose mountain bike culture. Choose adventure and mishap. Choose great stories and glorious photography. Choose ad-free access to our website. Choose time out with a mug of tea. Choose an annual subscription. Choose a monthly subscription. Choose discounts in our shop on a range of ethical products. Choose bobble hats. Choose hip flasks. Choose gift subscriptions for your friends. Choose single track salvation for your arse. Choose a username. Choose a community. Choose to support independent publishing. Choose your future and our future. Choose single track.
Hattie Harnden, welcome to the podcast. I know you've been shocked by some of your results this season, so I ask this with the greatest respect. Has the Mont Saint Anne result sunk in yet?
Not really. I'm not sure if it will sink in. It's a very surreal moment, and yet kind of something I never thought, well, certainly not something I would have achieved yet. So, still enjoying it at the moment.
Still enjoying it. Did you go to Trek's like head office or something after the race? Because you've only just got back, haven't you? Yeah,
we went to Wisconsin to, visit the Trek headquarters for a few days and say hello to all those guys. So yeah, that was really cool. And yeah, it's nice to see the people behind all of what happened.
Yeah, I think that must be a sign you've had a good season if you're invited to the factory at the end, like, here's our golden girl.
Yeah, I feel like I did all right. So yeah, made people happy.
Cool. So let's go back a bit, because you started racing cross country in 2014 when you were 13, is that right?
Yeah, gosh.
So took to it really, really, really well. 2015, 2016 national champion, and then you were picked up by Tracy Mosley. How big an influence has Tracy been on you?
Huge influence. She actually lent me the first bike I raced on. Right. So even though I didn't ride for her team for a couple of years, there was a couple of old bikes at Trek that were just going to get chucked in the skip, and she ended up lending one of them to me. And yeah, that was my first race bike. So I've actually always ridden a Trek. I've never ridden anything else. But she's been there from day one. So she's seen the whole progression, which is, I feel very lucky to have had her there. And couldn't really think of anyone better to have had there, to be honest.
And has she encouraged you to pursue different disciplines? Because as soon as I was looking at your results, and as soon as you joined Timo Racing, you started doing enduros. I think you won the under 24 category at Tweedlove when you were 15.
Yeah.
That's a fair old age bracket to win when you're 15, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that was one of the first ones I did. Just in the UK, and she always thought it would complement the XC, and you could never be too overly qualified, I think was her idea behind it. You could always be better, and it would complement it, even if you were a bit, almost a bit too good at the downhills for the cross country. So yeah, it's always, I think people are quite surprised. Actually, not many people know that I have actually raced enduro for actually really quite a long time in the UK. She just started it young, basically as soon as I was old enough. It's always kind of been there, although it was never wasn't my most enjoyed thing, because whenever we seemed to go, it would be chucking it down with rain. We'd spend 2 days in the pouring rain, cold and wet, riding around on bikes all day. But actually, I mean, it's a lot of fun. And I think I had a bit of a skewed view on it to begin with, until I made it somewhere sunny to have a go at it.
So we're not going to go into all the races, because you've done a lot of racing.
Yeah.
A lot of racing. Say how young you still are. You've amassed already 130 results on Roots and Rain, and there's a lot of first places. 2017, I noticed there was 15 races, 13 wins, a second and a third. And it was the third that interested me, because it was at the UK Enduro Champs at Graithwaite.
Yeah.
And I went there in 2020 when it was an EWS qualifier. And I went home on Saturday night because it was so technical and there was no flow, and I really wasn't enjoying it. So it's the only time I've ever done that, not raced on Sunday, just gone home. I don't think I've ever been back there. I don't think you've ever been back there. Did you feel the same about Graithwaite?
I just have one distinct memory that I got stuck in a bog and went over the handlebars on one of the stages. And I remember it being really rocky, but that was all I remember of just me falling into a bog and just being covered head to toe with mud. I think I was quite happy to just get through the day. No, I think, it's questionable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been there. It doesn't look like much fun, to be honest. So 2018, you won some cyclocross races, and I mean, I've never done cyclocross, but I've got my perception of it. I'm going to ask you the same question that we asked Omri Piron when he was on the podcast. Did you enjoy them?
I did, and actually, I have to admit, I missed it, because this year I'm going to race some more.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
Yeah, not like at a World Cup level, just at like a national and a regional level. But yeah, I have missed it actually, which I didn't think I would be saying.
Yeah, they look brutal.
Yeah.
So it's like an hour of max heart rate, right?
Yeah, doesn't sound good.
Yeah, with the muddy bogs, but they're meant to be.
Oh. Okay. Definitely some good winter training though, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's better than going out and riding on the road for like 3 hours. So yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. To be fair, I don't do that either. And if I was going to choose one, I would choose a cyclocross. Okay, so 2018 XC World Champs in Lenzerheide, 3rd place as a junior. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge result. It almost kind of defies logic that you wouldn't be doing that discipline now. Tell us a little bit about that race. What are the memories from it? I know it's 5 years ago, but.
No, I have a lot of great memories from it actually. Like my family came out to watch and, it was very unsure as to how I would do. I'd had a pretty rough year. I had started pretty kind of average and, I actually ended up getting coached by Tracy, for a while that year and it changed a lot and I was just really enjoying riding my bike and, yeah, I just have like my biggest distinct memory was my brother used to run along next to me up part of the track at the climb. And it was very annoying. And
so you're just trying to get away from it.
Yeah. I was like, he can run at the same speed that I'm trying to ride at. But no, I really loved that race actually. And going back there this year, racing downhill was quite like a wholesome moment. I felt like. Because, that was one of my favorite races. And actually, I would love to go back and just ride around the track again. Because, it's one of my favorite places to go to. And, probably one of my favorite moments in my career, actually.
Nice. So, 2019 cyclocross national champion. You go from the Shrewsbury Sports Village to then Lazore racing EWS. What attracted you to the EWS? Was it always the plan or?
The cyclocross was very unexpected. I wasn't expected to win it. And then the transitioning to the EWS was something Tracy had always wanted me to do. And, she'd been keen for me to do one the year before, but it just never fit in. And then, we had this random opportunity and it was quite weird because I did a race I'm trying to think I think I did a race in Le Tuile. No, it wasn't Le Tuile. I can't remember. Actually, it was Le Tuile. I got dropped to Geneva Airport. I got a train down to Gap and then across to somewhere else, all with like a bike and bag on the train. And then Tracy and her husband, James, picked me up in their camper van and we went racing in Lazore. It was quite like a bit of a journey, especially as like I think, 17-year-old getting on a train across Europe. But, I think it was just something Tracy had always wanted me to have a go at and being her thing. And I ended up actually really, really enjoying that race and, doing a couple more. So nice. I think it was a good choice.
I did have a question. So you won every stage, but you had a 3-minute penalty. Is that right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I broke my wheel on the Queen stage of the day, which I think was stage 2. And that was back when enduro racing was over 2 days. And so I just rode slow for the rest of the day. And then we changed the wheel, which increments a 3-minute time penalty.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was unfortunate, but I knew I was riding fast. So that was quite cool.
Well, nice.
So Hattie, it's just really interesting to have you on a podcast because, I started with XC as well. And now I'm writing down. I was writing down even. Shut up, Jack. He's trying to make me feel old. And
I can say honest, the same age.
I don't need your help because when I'm reading the next question and I'm asking you about your 2019 Worlds in Mont-Saint-Anne, you were junior.
Yes.
So you weren't even 18. Right. And I was like 35. So see. So you were going back and forth, EWS and then back to XC. You finished 12th in the junior woman. That's probably, from your face, it sounds like a bit of a disappointment, especially after getting third the year.
Yeah, big disappointment. Yeah, I think I started the year on the number 1 plate, and I got appendicitis like in March that year, and then I ended up having to have like 2 months off my bike. Like I had it removed, and I wasn't allowed to do strenuous exercise and things like that. So I missed like 2 months of the season, and that set me back quite a lot. And I just really never got back up to speed with everyone else, to be honest. And so, I definitely finished a lot lower than I wanted to. Disappointing, but is what it is.
Yeah, but a few weeks later, you like do the WS in Zermatt in Switzerland, and then you won the under 21 class. So that's what is, we're always talking about this, like doing different disciplines, and especially the training, like you doing 2 different disciplines like that at the time, and now even more downhill. How do you go about training for different events or format?
I definitely done like more gravity, more downhill training over the years slowly. And after that, like I started going to the gym. But I think I was just always a bit I like to be overfit for what I'm racing, and like mostly racing enduro, and, but I still always trained more for XC. But now more downhill stuff. So there's less and less pedaling in my life than there has been, but I try and sneak more back in when I can. But it's actually a really hard question to answer, because I really don't know if there is an answer, because there's so many different ways to train, and there's no right way to do it. So I think as long as you're having fun and you're reasonably fit and strong, I think you're going in the right direction, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure anyone actually really knows what they're doing. I definitely do. Just kind of go with the flow and hope that it's the right way.
Yeah, well, they definitely did go the right way, because the year after that, in 2020, you won the first 3 rounds of the EWS, but then you paused and you did some more XC, which you had probably under 23 your first year. Is it right?
Yeah.
Solid result, like top 10 and like in 11th. But you were not winning. So at which point you like decided to concentrate more on enduro and do a full series? And what do we know about you and your results so far?
Actually in those XC races, I had an unfortunate moment where I do wonder sometimes if it had played out different, whether I would actually be racing enduro now. Because in the second race in Novo Mesto, I was leading the race and my chain snapped, the under 23 race. And I wonder if that hadn't happened, whether I would have had like my moment where I like won my first under 23 World Cup and ended up racing XC rather than enduro. But I guess we'll never know. But
I have a question though about that.
Yeah.
Do you ever had the Olympics in your mind, like playing a role or not?
I did want to go to the Olympics. It was never like the thing. No, like I know people that all they care about is going to the Olympics, which I respect, but that's not necessarily what I wanted. I did really want to go to the Commonwealth Games last year because it was in Birmingham, so like the closest big city to my hometown. But like the Olympics was never the real thing. Like for me, the real thing is the rainbow jersey, and I don't think you'll ever beat that personally.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was a bit Olympic crazy when I was cross country rider. I think that delayed my conversion to a downhill rider. That's why I was asking.
Oh, okay.
It's good that you were not going Olympic crazy, because I was like, interesting. So you concentrated fully on enduro then. You had your first win in AWS in 2021 in Louvain. How big of a buzz was that to like get that first like elite win?
It was really crazy actually, because I was actually lucky that Tracy was actually there at that race, and I got to share that moment with her. It was actually the first venue I ever went to and raced an enduro abroad. I think I went in 2017. Just did like a random like super enduro with Tracy, and I loved it then, and I loved it when we raced it. What was it, 2021? But yeah, it was a very surreal moment because it wasn't at no point in the day. Well, I think I won the first stage, but I wasn't actually really necessarily like set to win. It was very much all played down to like the last stage. And yeah, it was a real shock. And yeah, I remember I made a bet actually with our Sonia at the time because I love chocolate milk, and I got a whole liter of chocolate milk and I drank it all at the finish line, and I felt very ill afterwards. But it was completely worth it. It was completely worth it.
Nice. So 2022, you followed up with 2 more victories and you finished 3rd overall. Though I think in the season you broke your elbow. Is that true?
Yeah, in Whistler, I broke my elbow. Whistler.
Bloody Whistler.
Yeah.
Were you left wondering what could have been without that injury? How are you feeling about the whole year?
Yeah, I definitely did wonder because I felt like had kind of steadily improved on my year that year. So yeah, it was a little frustrating, but then I think everyone had their struggles that year. So I think, yeah, I was happy to just go one better than the year before, to be honest. I'd come so close the year before that I wasn't going to finish lower than 3rd. I said to myself that I will not get beaten to 3rd place again.
Nice.
Can I just jump in there with a question? Like, I know you a little bit from, we've pitted next to each other a couple of times this season, and you're like this all the time. You're dead bouncy, dead fun, smiley, happy all the time. I can't almost imagine you going into like this serious racer mode.
That's quite funny.
Do you, at what point, because I've pitted next to you twice, I think. I remember Bala because my little girl came, and there was another one as well, and it was just a good crack. And at what point do you go into like, right now I'm going to put a run down?
I'm not actually the most serious person, I don't think, when I do that, actually. Like, I need to be like relaxed and calm. I don't think I go into like a super race mode. I just kind of let things happen. Almost, this sounds really weird, but like you get into that flow. It's like that flow state that people go on about, and I think I've experienced it a couple of times, and that's when I know I ride my best, and I just need to be relaxed. I don't need to be super serious. I know some people do, but I don't. I prefer to just be having a good time and having a laugh, and then you don't overthink things too much. So yeah, I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
So, but just to ask about that, was it different when you raced downhill? Because obviously we have only like kind of one chance, or?
I actually find it easier in downhill because you can, like, you sit on the turbo trainer, you sit and you put your headphones on and you can go through the whole track in your head. And that puts me in that like flow state. I don't need to be super serious or like, I don't know, maybe that is considered serious.
No.
But yeah, I don't need to like block people out. I can be there having a laugh. As long as I've gone through the track, I know what I'm doing. So I actually find it easy. Whereas enduro, when you're just plodding around for the day and you're trying to remember like half an hour of track, it's in my eyes, it's more complicated.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, so on to this season. There were 7 EDR rounds, and to run through them, you were 5th in Medina, 2nd Blue Derby, 9th in Petra Bagura finale, 5th Blue Gang, 5th Val di Fassa, 4th Ludenville, 3rd in Chatel. I mean, incredibly consistent, left you 3rd in the overall. I mean, Isabeau and Morgan have been the top 2 for a good number of years now. You did mention 5 or 10 minutes ago that when you're doing your training, you're not quite sure how it's going to work out. You just kind of hope it does. So that leads us into my question, which is, do you kind of have a plan for catching them? Do you feel like you can in the next year or two? What's the target?
Yeah, I think this year was a bit of a bumpy year in my eyes, not because of the results, just because of how I felt I rode. And I've proven in the past that I can go as fast as them. I think I just need to unlock it. But yeah, I think there's definitely things I want to do this winter that I want to like tweak in my training. And yeah, I think I didn't find that calm state that I needed enough for the enduro this year. Like it is like approaching lots of little downhill races in one day now. Like you watch the girls, like I was speaking to some of the other ones like ALN and Bex and Noga and those guys, you chat to them and everyone goes out the gate like it's a downhill stage. Like that is the one stage that you like want to win, but then you do that like 7 times a day. So I think I just need to learn a little bit more about the approach. And yeah, just being ready to go straight away for each stage. I think that's more something I've found has like changed over the short period I've done it anyway. So yeah, I think it is possible to catch them. They are pretty speedy, which is, well, they're French, so they're speedy. But yeah, I'm hoping to catch them next year. Fingers crossed. Maybe we can go one better than this year. We'll see.
Nice. Yeah, split them down the middle. So, as you just said, you've raced EWS for a few years. Tell us a little bit how you feel that the media coverage and the media profile has changed. Because obviously you've come from XC and you've seen downhill. Have you noticed a bit of a difference in the coverage between the sports, or?
Yeah, the coverage between the sports is definitely different. Like I guess it's easier with the downhill and the XC because it's all just in one space, like one track over the day. Yeah, enduro is definitely a funny one, and it's definitely changed over the last few years. I think not to be negative on what they're doing at the moment, but I think the coverage hit a peak like last year where we had Pro Stage and they brought out like a video for that, like a highlights video for that, and then for the main day. And we kind of got summary videos at the end of the year, whereas this year it's definitely been more slack. And I think that's because they've taken on a lot on their plate covering all of them. And yeah, enduro is a lot different. So I think it needs to be rethought through a little bit. But yeah, I definitely think they can do more with it. So I think there's room to grow, which is good. It's not as good as it could be. So
yeah, we've been hearing a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's good though, because there is a way, there's definitely a way to improve it. So they just need to figure that out, I think. But yeah, I think it's cool though in the downhill, the XC, how much coverage they do get. I think that's great. And that's what the sport needs. So yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes next year as well.
What progresses. So on to downhill. Riola was your first national and you won that one. You then went to Fort William for the national and did a 5-minute 23, which, as George will definitely agree to, is an impressive time. What's your PB, George?
6:23, I think.
There you go, some smoking, George. You went on to Lenzerheide, turned up, made it all the way through to finals, and came 9 at your first World Cup. How much of a surprise was that? Or was it not?
It was a really big surprise, actually, because I only first got a downhill bike. Literally, I got it on the 23rd of December. So it was like a Christmas present from the team. But actually, the only reason I got a downhill bike was because I went on team camp with the downhill boys in December. So like Reese, Cade, Loris, and Bodie. And they were all telling me that I needed one and that I should have a go at a downhill race. Because this year was the first year I ever done a downhill race. And they were like, oh, you should have a go at World Cup. And I was like, oh no, like I really don't. Yeah, I'm not sure that's a good idea. And then I remember, I think it was Reese sent me the changes they made for this year. And it said like only top 10 make it to finals. And I messaged him, was like, nah, I'm rethinking my downhill debut. It's not going to happen this year. I'll never make it. And he was like, nah, you'll be fine. Like it'll all work out. Like, yeah, just go for it. And he was right. And I think, yeah, it was a surprise for me, but I'm not sure it was for some of those guys on the team. I think they almost had more faith that I would do it than I did. But yeah, it was really, really, really cool. And we just went with it as it came, like through the day. And yeah, I think just unfolded how it was going to unfold.
Yeah, nice. So you then went on and won the national at Llangollen and national champs, beating Tani and Phoebe in the horrible conditions that we had. Did you enjoy that weekend?
I really enjoyed it, and I actually wanted it to stay wet for finals.
Yeah, me too. I was pissed.
I think I was actually more annoyed that I stayed on muds for the final run and really didn't need it.
No.
But no, I loved that track. I think it wasn't necessarily super downhill style, I think.
Yeah.
The very narrow single track, not really much line choice. But I thought it was really cool, and I think they did a really good job of it. So yeah, it was just another one of those weekends where it was just fun and it just kind of all clicked together. So that was cool as well.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that about the track, actually, because the last time I was there, I think, was 2017, and I came second to Charlie in Elite, and I used to love that track. And I enjoyed it in the wet this year, but I hated it in the dry just because I've spent the last 6 years racing fast, wide open World Cup tracks. And then I was back in there with trees that weren't cut back, very tight track, twisty corners on an XLV10 29er. So yeah, I agree. It was totally different to what we kind of normally racing. It was definitely eye-opening for me. Okay, so you then went up to Fort William for Worlds. A very impressive time of 5:12, 6th place in the quali. But did you go off track in your finals run? Is that right?
Yeah, I went off on one of the fastest bits of the track at the top, just as it opens out after all the rocky sections before you go into the trees. And I just had I don't even know, I just blinked and I was off the track and I was like, fuck. And I had to run back up to go through the right poles.
Yeah.
So that was unfortunate, but I think it was just sick to be there, to be honest.
Yeah, nice. Absolutely. So Snowshoe unfortunately crashing your semis run meant you were 13th. And onwards to Mont Saint Anne. I guess the last time you were at Mont Saint Anne would have been for a cross country, is that right?
Yeah, well, it's 2019. Yeah.
2019. Okay, there you go. So going back there, you managed to qualify 14th. So just squeezed in, but then third in semi.
It was very touch and go, stood at the bottom.
Yeah, I was 59th. I know the video in.
No way.
But yeah, but you turned that around in the semis, third, and then, as we mentioned earlier, 5th in the final and a World Cup podium. Did you love the track?
I did, but it was really challenging. I remember looking at it in practice thinking this looks amazing. And then I got on the track and was like, oh my God, this is the hardest thing I've ever ridden.
Yeah.
And felt like I was riding really slow and just there were bits that were stopping me from linking the track together. Like I'd stall in one section or something. And it wasn't until the morning of finals day where I actually kind of started to just let it flow a bit more. And I think that's why things kind of turned around a bit. But my poor bike took a bit of a beating. So I'm kind of glad we just made it down in one piece.
Yeah. And a podium. So
yeah, that was pretty surreal. But I think it was quite cool to know coming over the finish that I was guaranteed a podium because of where that was quite special because then we kind of started celebrating straight away. I was like, I don't care where I finish now. This is amazing.
The top 5 is good, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Nice. So what a great season for you. So obviously now the question is, what are you going to do in the future? What's the plan for next season? Obviously finishing on a high note like that in the DH side. Have you changed your plans or what are you going to do?
No, my plans are going to stay the same, actually. I'm going to still do all the Enduro World Cups, and then I'm going to try and do as many of the downhill ones that fit in, which is currently 4, but we'll see. I was putting it all in on my calendar and I was like, damn, it looks like I'm going to try and move to Europe for 5 months. So I'm just like, maybe I need to do a bit of thinking here. But I would like to race as much downhill as possible. And yeah, it's pretty addictive. So yeah, I'm not really sure.
So is that are you completely free of what you choose to do? Is you're contracted to do certain things or?
I'm very lucky that whenever I've signed for Trek, it's been very fluid as to what I can do. And I've always used that to my full advantage and raced lots of different things, which they love as well. So, I'm free to more or less do what I want. But, I'm going to still have another crack at the Enduro. I mean, who doesn't want to win the overall? So yeah, that's the aim, but it's a tall order at the moment. So I'm just going to give it another stab and see what happens.
How old are you now?
22.
22. Yeah. Okay. So if you train full time for downhill, so I started downhill at 21 and I raced for 15 years. So you've got some time. If you train full time for DH, how far do you think you could go?
I like to think,
well, you know you can go fifth because you just did. So
yeah.
I like
so
to
you
think
can podium.
Yeah, I like to think if I really went for it, I could win one. But I mean, Valley's on a whole nother level at the moment, as she seems to show again and again. But yeah, I'd like to think I could regularly be on the podium if I really went for it. But I'm not really in any rush because I feel like you kind of acquire a lot of injuries racing downhill. That's my lesson this year is like every downhill I went to, I like acquired a new injury. So,
yeah, that'll
yeah, so I feel like I'm not really in any rush to kind of speed that process up. So, yeah.
Nice. Which one is your favorite discipline if you had to choose one?
I think I could get in trouble.
We know the answer to that then.
Yeah. I don't think you need me to answer that one.
No.
Okay. We leave it to that. Which one have you found harder? Like the transition from XC to Enduro or from Enduro to DH? What do you think?
I think the transition to Enduro was quite a natural one, actually, for me. I think it just kind of built each year until I was doing the full did a full series. So I think, that was quite natural. And if I'm honest, I'm not saying it's come easy, but it's always felt very natural for me to do. It's certainly not easy. But I think to downhill is definitely a big step. Like the level's so high and you can't make a mistake and you can't, you just got to be on it all the time, which I think is the hardest thing. You don't get like a second chance to do it better almost. I mean, I felt like I did it once and scraping it into semis and then pulling myself together. But yeah, it's so tight. And I think, it's a hard time to be in that sport.
So at the top of the show, Emmy was saying about how some of the pivot guys use downhill as a tool to help them go faster at Enduro. Now you've ridden that fast in Mont Saint Anne, do you think you can go that bit faster in the Enduro?
I like to think so. I think it does help, definitely. That's kind of why I started having to go at the downhill stuff, like just, the speed and the processing stuff coming up too fast. I think that's the plan. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen because I feel like I'm going to want to ride downhill quite a lot this winter. So, I really hope it helps that much.
So I just wanted to ask, full 29 on the slash, I think. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And mullet on the downhill bike on the session. Any reason why you prefer it that way around?
In all honesty, I've not actually ridden the slash yet as a mullet. And I did actually run my downhill bike as a full 29 in snowshoe at Mont Saint Anne, actually.
Right.
The first time I have ridden it as a 29. But I ran it as a full 29 at Worlds as well. Wanted the extra rolling at the bottom track. But, I think for the Enduro, like you need more of the carrying the speed, and the bike is so much smaller already. To have a smaller rear wheel isn't necessarily a big thing you want. Whereas I feel like in the downhill, like you're riding a longer slacker bike, so making it a tiny bit shorter and more maneuverable at those high speeds, I think is pretty good. And it's a lot of fun to ride a mullet. I think the first thing I noticed, like going around corners, I was like, oh, this is really fun. But
cool.
Yeah.
So we can't end without giving a shout out to your mechanic Lundy, who is one of the nicest guys on the circuit and also pretty handy on a bike. Is he fast? Are you faster than him or is he faster than you?
Well, we actually did test this out we both raced the Piers Cycles race earlier in the year at, was it Riederfellen?
Yeah, Bala, yeah.
Yeah. And fortunately, I was faster. Thank goodness. It wasn't a lot though. I was only like 5 seconds faster than him. So, he is very speedy actually, which is actually really quite cool. And I could definitely learn things off of him. He's definitely a far better jumper than I am. Things like that. So yeah, it's quite cool actually.
Cool. Well, look, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you also for being so lovely to my daughter at Bala. She's only 6, but she recognised you on the TV at Worlds, and I think it blew her mind a little bit that that's that girl that I was talking to at Bala. So that was lovely. Best of luck for next season. We can't wait to see what you achieve. Hopefully, we'll see you back at the downhills.
I was going to say, we'll see the downhill races.
Yeah. We all know it's going to happen.
For sure. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Thanks for having
Hattie.
us on.
Yeah,
See you, Hattie.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Jack, we didn't quite get 9 winners in 9 races, but we were so very close, with Ethan taking second. Jackson won the semi by 5 seconds, the final by 4, with what looked like an almost effortless run. Does his riding look as smooth in person?
Yeah, it's frightening, really. Like, it's just, as you said, he just looks like he's floating down the mountain. It's he's so small, but he uses that to his advantage. It's never a hindrance. It's always something that he's using to benefit him. And anyone who hasn't been on and watched his Mod and POV it's well worth going on and watching, because you can just see how he's moving the bike around, and yeah, it's really impressive.
Ethan's run was almost the opposite. Absolutely wild. But what an end to the season for him.
I was in the gondola on one of the practice runs. I think it was me, Ethan, Wynn, maybe Roger. And yeah, I think Ethan was making it pretty clear that it was either a podium or he wasn't interested. So it was impressive to see him lay that run down and then also not back off every time. He almost had like basically a near-death experience. Yeah. So yeah, fair Fox. That was very impressive.
And there was 3 or 4 of those near-death experiences.
The one off the Stevie Roth, man. If that had done on him, oof. But he just kept going. So fair play.
Super Bruni took 3rd, and with it the overall. Almost a different winner at every race, but still only 13 men have won the overall in the last 30 years. He's the man, isn't he?
Jesus, yeah. Just what he's achieved over the last 10 years is just incredible.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll have a new winner next season, though?
A new winner of the overall?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Or if you were gambling, you'd only put it in one pot, wouldn't you? Absolutely be a certain amount of Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. After the season he had, Jackson, many difficulties.
Yeah.
Like, he was like almost dying. He was saying, like, he could have died after the surgery when the surgery went wrong. And he was like still second in the overall and winning the last one by 4 seconds. You're like, what is this guy up to?
So
is really impressive.
So I've seen a bit of an interview with Bernard, and I couldn't quite work out if Bernard he'd have beaten Loic, would Jackson have won the overall? Is that what he was saying, or have I misunderstood it? So Loic ended up 3rd, Bernard 4th. But if Bernard had beaten, I haven't done the maths on it, but
I can't remember what the points gap was. I don't know where Loic had to finish if Jackson won for Jackson to win the overall.
Right, I couldn't
remember.
I haven't looked at the points gap.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was further back than 5th.
Yeah, I thought so, but
I might be wrong. I haven't looked.
Bernard 4th, top 20 at every race this season, 6th in the overall. Solid season for him, Emmy.
Yeah, for sure. It's the most consistent he had so far, I think. Yeah. His absolute result were better last year, but I think he was kind of like closer. I think he's the only guy that top 20 every race.
Every race, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's lurking for that win, and I don't know if he's ever gonna stop before he get it. But yeah, he's capable of it. He just needs to click, and sometimes he's trying to pace himself not to peak too early that way he's doing. And I think if we ever would go back to a quali final format, I think it would greatly help him to achieve that win, because I don't think he's very I thought Lundeville was the one I thought he was going to win there, but then he crashed pushing too hard. But yeah, we'll see.
And tell us about that bike. Is it going to production?
I don't know, actually.
No.
I haven't talked to Bernie about that. Obviously, I wasn't at the last races, so we didn't really get into detail. I haven't heard any conversation about it. Probably at some point, but I don't know how far they are.
Cool. Gaten V's 5th with incredible result, which again shows that riders from outside the top 30 can get on the box.
I think it also highlights the need for ESO to stop doing what they're doing and trying to strangulate the sport. Because how amazing was it seeing Gaetan achieve that? Whether you were where we were watching or whether you were at home going, who's this guy?
Yes.
Like, he just came 5th at a World Cup, like achieved his first podium. He was privateering in the car park out the back of a rental car with his mate who was doing some mechanicking for him. Like, that will all go away if they keep doing what they're doing. And it would be such a shame to see that kind of magic of the sport lost.
Well, would Øisin have been racing? You know, he was ranked.
He's on a factory team. It's different, isn't it? Like,
he is, but he was ranked 33rd in the world, you know, before
Yeah.
If there's a top 30, would he have been in it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It can go all the way down to there, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about all we've got time for. Sorry we didn't get onto the team rumours, but we'll definitely do more of that next time. Thanks to the wonderful sponsors of the show, Hope Technology, JTech Suspension, Revolution Bike Park, Ride Southern Spain, Schwalbe and SingleTrackWorld.com. If you're enjoying the podcast, I'm sure you know what to do by now. Please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you've got a sec, please drop us a review. Alternatively, please give us a follow on Instagram at Making Up the Numbers Racing or Facebook.com/Making Up the Numbers. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with more in a couple of weeks.